Hello and welcome to a very special interview here on Beyond Markets on the big summer events that are impacting our economies this year. From Taylor Swift to Adele, the Paris Olympics and Paralympics to the European Championships, there is plenty going on in Europe this year. And while the economic impact of each event depends on multiple factors, they cannot be underestimated. Beyoncé's recent tour of Sweden, for example, was even blamed for driving up inflation there. Well, today we're going to take a specific look at the Paris Olympic Games with sports business journalist Matthew Leighton, who's joining me here in the studio. Matthew, it's great to have you here. Great to see you again. We worked together way back when at CNN. And you've been covering these sporting events for many, many years now. Just paint us a picture, first of all, of what is going to be happening in Paris and what it takes to get something like the Olympics on the road.
Hello, Hannah. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a massive organizational situation. So, the IOC is based in Lausanne. Their primary job is to host the Olympic Games in the summer and the winter. Why do they do this? Because they get huge income from broadcast, from selling tickets, from all sorts of other packages. And they use that, they spread it out on all the sports organizations. Why do they do it? Because they can. They say, we'll be the lead of sports in the world. And people say, okay, so just go along with it at the moment. So what happened is in 2017, so 7 years ago, Paris was officially nominated to host the 33rd Olympic Games. Why? Well, it was only Paris and Los Angeles that said they want to do it. So they agreed between themselves, yes, it's Paris. Everything, the stars were aligned because they had tried. They tried in 98, they tried in 2004, they tried in 2012 to host the Olympics. They didn't come together. Now the stars are aligned. It's 100 years since they've last hosted in Paris. They had Anne Hidalgo, who's the mayor, was already in place, and she was persuaded it's a good idea. Emmanuel Macron had just come in before, and he thought, well, that's a good idea. Then he had Tony Estanguet, head of the local organising committee, 3 times Olympic champion. And the Frenchies needed something to pick them up. They had the Bataclan in 2015. There had all sorts of reasons why Paris hadn't lost its shine, but they thought, let's have a party.
Do they still think it's a good idea, though? Now that we're heading into it, and the bills are probably mounting up, I know they've had huge amounts of difficulties cleaning the Seine and making sure everybody's out of the city and security. I mean, what's the vibe like now as we run up to it?
It depends who you ask. If you ask Mrs. Dupont, who has a 1-bedroom apartment near the Trocadero, she had someone call her up the other day and she's getting €2,000 a day just to move out. She's delighted. Average Parisians, they are special in many ways. Do they need the hassle of not being able to cross the bridges for the week? No. Do they get worried about security? Of course. Are they all going to go to the events? Probably not. On the upside, I remember London like it was yesterday. I remember Rio. I remember Tokyo. The buzz that you get is a lifetime memory. The whole world is going to be looking and saying how amazing France is and Paris is. And any Parisian's going to love that secretly.
But this is exactly why people want to host the Games, because you mentioned LA. They are really the only games way back in the 1980s that was ever actually profitable. So the only real reason to do this is for that spotlight attention, right?
Yeah, LA was a little bit interesting because it was the only city to put themselves forward, so they negotiated a special deal. And obviously it's easy. It's a more dynamic market in the States, and you get most of your money from selling advertising. You set on. So that's the reason they did it. I believe that the vision that London had, they're using most of their infrastructure anyway, that lifted the whole country. Sydney in 2000, Sydney was a little seaside resort that became an international place. Barcelona was an industrial city that became wow. And they say from of course we have different examples. We had China, which hopefully for the Chinese people it gave them a lift, cost quite a lot of money. So right from the back, yes, you can really be proud of what they're doing.
So what about the economic impacts then? Will Paris be counting the costs or not?
Journalists have to write copy. And so the year before Olympic Games, every journalist is trying to find an angle. And the easiest angle apart from security is the finances. Will they keep to their budget? How much is it going to cost? How much do French people have to pay for this? To answer your question, yes, the French people are going to have to put their hands in their pockets. But it's something that's in control. And since Paris they have an audit committee which looks at it before, during, and after. I can give you figures if you like, but it's going to be a fairly balanced budget because basically the IOC, obviously a Swiss non-for-profit business in Lausanne, they manage it, and they're given local organising committee all the power to set things up. They decide, are they going to use existing infrastructure? Paris has said no, 95% of the structures are going to be already in existence. So they say we're going to put 7 or 8 new facilities up just for the jury. But apart from that, we're very conscious that we're not spending too much money. Mistakes made in the past. Obviously, we've got loads of examples there. But no, I think Paris, most people who are looking at it say they've done pretty well in keeping it. Okay, it's gone slightly above budget. They say with inflation, it may be 15% above budget, but that's well manageable.
But what is a budget? It's like 10 billion?
Yeah, there's 2 separate, and it's a game. It's a fun game trying to find out the figures because the Olympics say we give $4.2 million every day to sports. And then you have some smart journalist who actually breaks it down and says, yeah, but you pay your elective quite a lot of money. Okay, the budget at the moment is globally around about 9 billion euros. It's split into 2. There's the infrastructure budget, which is basically getting the bricks and mortar together. So that's the new Olympic Village in Saint-Denis. That's 31 different structures that are going to be handed over to public housing in a year's time. So that's the initial cost. There are 2,800 workers working on that project at any one time. They're putting a new aquatic centre. That's going to be 170 million. And there's got one more centre just in the north, at La Chapelle. In the north, it's going to cost another 150. So basically, the fixed costs are going to be around about 4.5 billion. And that's where the French have to pay for it a little bit. The other side of it, with the
taxes.
Yes.
Okay.
They won't say how much it's going to cost. Pierre Moscovici, who's the politician in France who heads the audit committee, he's basically saying, yes, it's going to cost, we think it's about 2 billion more, or it might be 3 to 5 million more. But we'll only see in a year's time. And of course, in a year's time, he'll be doing a different agenda.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah. And the organisation part of it, they get money, they get a big help of well over 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 from the IOC, who takes it out of the money they receive. Ticket sales, there's 10 million tickets going on sales. There's also, it's a 2-segmented approach. You have the Olympic Games, that's where you have 10,500 athletes in all the 32 Olympic sports. But also you have the Para, which is basically 3,700 athletes, and that's a month later. So you have all of it coming together. There's ticket sales, that's about 1.1 billion. There's hospitality packages. There's the TV rights they get some money for. And there's also the sponsorship. So Paris, to fill you in a little bit, the IOC, they'll have what's called their top sponsors. These are people who, they never sign from one year to the next. They sign in 8 years, 50, 20 years, 30 years. One of the companies has been there since 1928. They sign long term, and they're the global sponsors. And Paris brings in its own money. I think it's projected to bring in 1.24 billion euros from its top French brands. So you have the 6 really top ones, then you have 14 on a lower level, and then you have 29 on a slightly lower level. So they're bringing in all that money. What I'm trying to say is the organisational budget is supposed to be balanced. So of this 9 billion, around about 6 or 7 billion is accounted for. And the rest, yes, France have to put their hand in their pocket. But you can see great reports. They're saying the economic benefits from this, for the taxes they're going to have in the next 10 years, what have you, could be between 5 billion to about 12 billion. So obviously the journalists will say, well, you're only going to make 5 billion, it's going to cost this. And the politicians in France say, hey, we're going to make 12 billion. Historically, it's not going to happen. Basically, I think there was some institute the other day said that on average, the games from 2000 to 2020, they go about 160% over budget. Mm-hmm. But that's a given. I mean, you've got to be naive, like you said a minute ago, if you think it's just going to make you lots of money. You have to have other forms of getting pleasure out of it.
You think LA are probably hoping that they can do another slam dunk when it comes to budgeting? Because I think they made a profit of something like 215 million US dollars in 1984, and they're next after Paris. Maybe they're hoping, I'm not sure, but it was on there.
It's a funny market because you say, well, not that many people watch it, but Comcast, who NBC, who pay a fortune, they paid $7 billion to have the rights to broadcast in North America from 2021 to 2032. okay, it's a lot of money. They have to pay out, you'd imagine, about $1 billion a year. But even they've already sold for these games 1.2 billion advertising. So they sell it on. Are Los Angeles going to make money? Probably. With all the technology coming through, with all the digital ways of selling it, they're not going to have to build any new structures. The big cost is the Olympic Village. And they're going to use UCLA campus. They sort of figure it out. They are Americans, and they're sort of one step ahead because they've got their own classic four sports. They know about marketing.
Yes.
Europe sort of have the romantic image that everyone wants to come and see London and Paris. Isn't it beautiful? I need it, but it's a different way to look at the world.
It's very interesting. And what's interesting is that the business model here, or how they do their advertising, how they do their budgeting, and the sponsorship is very different to other events that are going on this summer. We've got the European Championship coming up, for example. I'll talk about that in a moment. But we've also got Taylor Swift coming to Europe. Are you a Swiftie?
I had to look it up, in fact. The definition of a Swiftie is someone who is dedicated and passionate about her music.
This is my daughter, by the way.
I have a 9-year-old, and she occasionally does. She prefers Beyonce. But no, I'm not a Swiftie. But obviously, I admire the way that she and her world have they've set the world differently. Now, as opposed to having to do 1,000 concerts in different places, you go to one place like Singapore, you get exclusivity for 6 events, and everyone flies in. So it's brilliant. I think the way she's got to take a lot of credit for it, but she's been playing the game for 15 years. So it's sort of not instantly broken through, but she's setting new levels. 3-hour show. Well, can you handle 16 changes, 40 songs?
It's incredible. She's an absolute machine. And also, actually, if you are interested in Taylor Swift, you can hear more about Swiftonomics and the impact that she's having on the cities that she's visiting, or certainly the impact she had in Singapore, by checking out the Beyond Markets podcast, which is available wherever you get podcasts. Check that out. We've got lots of stats, including how many Swifties are taking the opportunity to improve their health when they go to the concerts. I'll let you discover that for yourselves. But let's talk about the European Championships then, Matt, because that's a very different business model. Germany are hosting this summer, the first time since reunification. How does that business model then differ to the Olympic Games?
The Olympics is all their eggs in one basket. That's why Tokyo had to happen. They get pretty much all their income. Okay, there's the Winter Olympics, which bring in a smaller level, but pretty much all the income is around the Olympics. The UEFA Euro, so the UEFA is a federation under the FIFA, which is under the umbrella of the Olympics. They have a different model. They have their tournaments every year. They have the Euro, it's been running its 17th time. They know what to do. Basically, you have 50-odd countries. They play against each other in various qualification tournaments for the year before. The top 24 teams go together in 10 venues in Germany to play 51 matches over a month. And so for UEFA, they control everything. They're based in Lyon, in here as well. They're non-profit as well, so they distribute all their funds as well. So it's a similar sort of vibe, but they control everything. And the difference is in the Olympics, you're not allowed any field of play advertising. So you can't see anything. It's all in your mind.
Yes.
In the Euro, for the first time, they're doing virtual advertising where they're selling their media rights. They have 3 different packages. They have a German package, they have a Chinese package, and they have a USA package. So they can put anything they like to sell all these. Again, they have the same thing. They have the top preferred partners. They have lots of partners for the Germans and going down. So it's a similar sort of thing, but it's only with the football fans, you know what you get. You know you're going to get the Brits, the Scottish and the English coming in this way. So they get some tickets from their own federation. And they're going to be based in, we know where they're going to be. So it's a different thing. And there's not so many matches. In the Olympics, there's 329 different events in going on all over the place. In here, you just have your matches. And often you have, after the first phase, where there's a knockout group, then you have a gap of a few days. So for their marketing, yes, they've sold 2.7 million tickets. They could have sold 20, 30, 40 million tickets. For the actual matches, that's interesting. But they're having fan zones as well. And football is all about having a good time with your plan. Mm-hmm. So it's a different way, but it's a big money raise. They're expecting to raise just over 2 billion euros from it, which, as I say, it's only a fifth of the UEFA budget over the 4 years. But again, it's a massive situation. But with the football, you know who you're going to get. You know where your fans are coming from, who they're going to be shouting for, where the teams are going to be playing. Whereas in the Olympics, it's all in one village. So it's 10,500 athletes. In football, it's 600 highly paid athletes. So it's completely different, but amounts, it's quite similar.
So for the Olympics, then your big winners are the hospitality industries, the travel companies, the sponsors, the TV advertisers. But then there's for the Euros, for example, that's probably also your sportswear brands, all that kind of stuff as well. Plus, it can be much more targeted.
Plus betting.
Well, I'm not going to get into that.
In the Euro, the last Euro, all over all the countries, they reckon there's about 8 billion euros bet.
Wow.
Where it's only going to go up, isn't it? So that's something that we don't really talk about, but that's massive. So if you look at your mobile companies, 40% now is on mobile. You look at most betting now is in match. So you don't say Scotland are going to beat Germany 4-2. You say after the 33rd minute, such as that's going to happen.
Wow. Okay.
So that's basically changed everything on that nature.
Okay. Well, it sounds we've got a very exciting summer ahead of us. The European Championships put me in a bit of bother because obviously Scotland and Switzerland are in the same group. Have you got any predictions for us?
Well, they play Hungary and Germany. My advice, it's not a prediction, my advice to you is football is one of those rare sports where from start of your life to the end of your life, you're forgiven for supporting the same team. So you had your Scottish roots. I completely respect you supporting Scotland. Now I can't talk about betting, but the good odds. Switzerland, we live here. This is the country. So it's about time they did something. Often they win a match or two. Who are the favourites? You've got England, which are always the favourites. They're up there. Then you've got France and Germany. My advice to you is support Scotland and Switzerland. But for everyone else out there, look at the situation. And last time we had Italy, who weren't expected to win. And that's the great thing about football is you can't put an argument with someone to change teams. They always support one team.
Yes.
And just go with it. And hopefully it's a festival for the month.
Matt, thank you so much indeed. That was absolutely brilliant. Lots of insights there. And you can stay up to date with the phenomenon of Swiftonomics and Sportonomics in our sister podcast series, Beyond Markets, which is available now. I know Matt's also involved there with many more insights on the Olympic Games. Check out Beyond Markets wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're missing our usual update on markets, do check out Moving Markets, where we follow the twists and turns of the global markets every single day. That's also available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, next month, we'll be bringing you our mid-year market outlook. We're live with our head of research, Christian Gattaker, on June the 27th at 10 o'clock Central European Summertime on the latest market situation and, crucially, when central banks might cut rates later this year. Do reach out to your relationship manager for an invite for that if you're not already subscribed. Bye-bye.